Last season can be best described as a roller coaster ride for the Houston Rockets. They kicked off the year having to go through all of the James Harden drama, wound up having a little success after trading him to Brooklyn, and then proceeded to go on a 20-game losing streak before calling it a lost season. While it's easy to say that the Rockets were simply a bad team, the truth is that there was a lot of talent on that roster. John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and Christian Wood was a pretty good nucleus, and on top of that, the Rockets had solid role players like Eric Gordon, Daniel House, and Jae'Sean Tate. The biggest issue is that Houston constantly had players coming in and out of the lineup due to injuries, and the team was never able to develop any chemistry with one another. Regardless of why it happened, the Rockets finished with the worst record in the league last year, and as a result, they are currently in a rebuild mode. However, when you think of rebuilding teams, you usually think of rosters filled with young, inexperienced players, but that's not the case in Houston. While the Rockets do have plenty of youth in the form of Kevin Porter Jr., Jae'Sean Tate, and Jalen Green, they also have a number of good veterans, as well as an established young talent in Christian Wood. In today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on how the Rockets season will go, and how it will set them up going forward.
Murray, inside, incredible!
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
They do have a timeout, decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown, bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
The first thing that jumps out to me when I look at this roster is the offensive talent they have, and that starts with their best player, Christian Wood. Wood is a great rim runner, he can put the ball on the floor, and he can step out and hit shots from the perimeter. What's even better for the Rockets is that they got him for a huge bargain. In his first year in Houston, Wood averaged 21 points and 9.6 rebounds, and he was only making a little over $13 million. Over the next 2 years, Wood will have an average salary of just under $14 million, which is incredible value for a 20-10 guy. Eric Gordon is another veteran on this team that can score, and although he may be starting to decline, Gordon is still someone that can provide this team with floor spacing, a spark plug off the bench, and someone that can pass down a lot of wisdom to the younger players on this roster. Speaking of those young guys, they have some nice skills on the offensive end too. In my opinion, many teams will regret passing up on Josh Christopher, who the Rockets landed with the 24th pick. Christopher is a lengthy, athletic, shot-creating guard, and he has the confidence that is required to be good in the league. On top of that, he's shown a lot of potential in the defensive end, both in college and during the summer league. The talent is there for Christopher. Besides adding a more reliable three-point shot, the main thing he has to improve is his basketball IQ. In my eyes, Houston got another steal when they drafted Alperen Sengun 16th overall. Sengun is listed at 6'9", 240, and he's not the quickest on his feet, so there have been concerns about how he'll fare on defense in the NBA. However, if Sengun can develop into a respectable defender, the Rockets would be extremely happy with that because his offensive potential is through the roof. Sengun has incredible footwork and touch around the rim, he's shown upside as a passer, and he puts pressure on the defense by relentlessly crashing the offensive glass. In 2021, Sengun won the Turkish League MVP at just 18 years old, so he is clearly one of the most skilled players in this draft class. If Sengun's game is able to translate to the NBA level, the Rockets could have a perennial all-star on their hands. Moving on to someone who has actually played for the Rockets, it goes without saying that Kevin Porter Jr. was a steal of a pickup for Houston last year. In 26 appearances, he averaged 16.6 points and 6.3 assists per game. Porter joined the team at a point when the season was a lost cause for them, so he was given plenty of opportunities on offense. KPJ was not the most efficient or consistent player last year, but he had many flashes of brilliance. Porter showed that he could make good reads and find the open man, that he's able to create space with the dribble, and that he can finish very well around the rim too. Towards the end of the season, KPJ had a game where he scored 50 points, hit 9 threes, and had 11 assists, making him the youngest player in NBA history to record 50 plus points and 10 plus assists in a game. He may not be the most consistent player, but he's shown legit star potential, and if you're a rebuilding team like Houston, those are the kinds of players you want. On top of that, he showed some nice chemistry with Christian Wood, so it's good to see that two of the best young pieces on this team are gelling quite nicely. Another player on this team with star potential is Jalen Green, who the Rockets picked number 2 overall this year. Even at just 19 years old, Green is an elite athlete by NBA standards. He has a quick first step, he's very good at creating space, and he's not afraid to use his leaping ability around the rim. While athleticism is what comes to mind when thinking of Jalen Green, he's far more than just that. During his time in the G League and Summer League, Green demonstrated the skills of an all-around scorer. In the G League, he got a lot of experience in pick and rolls as well as off-ball actions, and in the Summer League, he showed off his incredible shot-making ability. Green does have his issues on the defensive end. He does need to become a better playmaker and more consistent shooter, and there are concerns about his maturity, but Jalen Green has incredible talent, and his issues are ones that can be fixed. Jae'Sean Tate and Kenyon Martin Jr. are intriguing prospects as well, and although they aren't as offensively gifted as some of the other names that I've mentioned, Rockets fans should be extremely excited about their futures too. I also think that Houston has the right coach for a team with a lot of youth. For 2 decades, Stephen Silas served as assistant coach in the league, and he's gotten the opportunity to work with many talented players. He's coached guys like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kemba Walker, and most recently Luka Doncic. Many of the players he's coached have raved about him, and Steph Curry has even credited him with the idea behind his pregame routine. Obviously, Silas is not solely responsible for the development of these stars, but what you can say about Silas is that he's well liked, he's experienced, and because he's gotten the opportunity to work with so many great players, he can teach the younger guys on this roster what it takes to be great. Having a strong leader can be very important in a player's development, and Houston seems to have a coach in Silas that fits that mold. Staying on the topic of player development, I like that Houston is giving the keys to the young guys on this roster. A few days ago, it was reported that the Rockets will be working with John Wall to find him a new team. Wall will be at training camp in Houston, but he won't be playing in any games for the Rockets this year. To me, this was the right decision for both parties, as Wall will get to play for a more competitive team this season, and the Rockets will not stunt the development of their young guys by playing a ball-dominant veteran guard alongside them. Wall has always been a very high usage player, but he had the highest usage rate of his career last year in Houston. Wall likes to be in control of the offense, and I don't think he would be willing to defer to younger, inexperienced players, especially when the team likely won't be contending for anything substantial this year. With Wall no longer being in the rotation, I expect DJ Augustin to be the starting point guard for this team. Talent-wise, Augustin is not nearly as dynamic as Wall, but I think he's a much better fit alongside Jalen Green and Kevin Porter. He has had multiple seasons shooting over 40% from 3, he's willing to take a backseat to other players, and he makes winning plays. During his last 2 years in Orlando, Augustin was a key contributor for a team that made the postseason both years. He was a very steady presence on that team, and they were better when he played. When Augustin was in the lineup, the Magic went 70-68 versus 5-12 when he didn't play. This may not be so important for the Rockets as they won't necessarily be trying to win games next year, but contending teams will have this in mind come the trade deadline. Augustin is someone that will fit in well and allow the young guys to grow for the first half of the year, and by mid-season, the Rockets will likely be able to trade him to a contender, possibly for some future draft capital or young talent. Considering the Rockets are still fresh off of trading James Harden, they do have a lot of positive things going for them. However, this team still has a lot of holes to patch up over the years. One of the most glaring issues with this team is their defense. While Christian Wood is highly impactful on the offensive end, the same can't be said for his impact on defense. Wood is only listed at 214 pounds, which causes him problems when having to play post defense. He's also not the best at defending in the pick and roll, so the training staff will have to get him stronger, smarter, and better on his feet to see improvements. Kevin Porter Jr. has shown a lot of potential on defense, but like a lot of young players, he is inconsistent. Jalen Green is probably going to struggle on defense during his rookie year. He is pretty slim, which could give him trouble when defending the ball, and there were a lot of moments in the G League where he lost focus when playing off-ball defense. Josh Christopher is more like KPJ in the sense that he's shown flashes of being a good defender, but he too struggles with consistency on that end, and Alperen Şengün will have to adjust to defending quicker guards in the pick and roll. It's not all bad for the Rockets on defense. Jae'Sean Tate is a really versatile defender, Daniel Theis has been an impactful defensive player throughout his career, and Daniel House is a great perimeter defender, but there's only so much they can do. Wood, Porter, and Green will likely be the 3 players averaging the most minutes on this team, and the best defender of the 3, Kevin Porter Jr., is inconsistent on that end. The Rockets were 27th in defensive rating last year, and while a healthier roster and the addition of a defensive-minded center like Theis could help them improve, I can't see them being anything more than a middle-of-the-pack defensive team. As I mentioned, the Rockets do have some talented offensive players on this team, but there is one major area of concern for them on that side of the ball, and that's three-point shooting. Despite ranking 3rd in three-point attempts, the Rockets shot the 3rd worst percentage in the entire league this past season. It won't help that they haven't added much shooting this offseason, as Jalen Green is the only good shooter they've brought in. Again, a healthier roster could result in some improvements as Christian Wood missed 31 games last year, DJ Augustin only made 20 appearances with the team in 2021, and their new rookie Jalen Green shot well from the NBA 3 in both the G League and Summer League. However, I wouldn't consider any of these guys to be elite shooters, and unfortunately they are the 3 best perimeter shooters on this roster. Kevin Porter Jr. is a career 32.3% three-point shooter. Eric Gordon and Daniel House have seen their percentages decline over the past few years, and both Jae'Sean Tate and Daniel Theis are low percentage, low volume shooters who will be getting a fair amount of minutes this year. The last weakness of theirs that I want to talk about isn't so much of a weakness, it's more so a byproduct of the direction this franchise has decided to go. I alluded to this earlier, but I expect the Rockets to move on from a veteran like DJ Augustin at the trade deadline. By agreeing to find John Wall a new home, the organization has made it clear that they are prioritizing the future, and I could see them moving on from multiple veterans this season. On top of Augustin and Wall, I think that either Eric Gordon or Daniel House will be shipped to a contender for younger assets. If the Rockets do move on from some or all of these players, it would be good for their future, but wouldn't necessarily help them win games for this upcoming season. With all of that being said, I have the Houston Rockets finishing 14th in the West this year. I already have my standings prediction set up, and with each team preview that I do, I will reveal where I have that team finishing in the standings. My next team preview will be coming out tomorrow, and it will be on the Detroit Pistons, so be sure to check that video out when it's up. That's going to be all from me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. And with all that being said, I'm out, and I'll see you in the next video.